I became the emperor of the Qing Empire at the age of 3, subsequently setting multiple records among Qing emperors. The youngest emperor, the shortest reigning emperor, and the last emperor of the Qing Dynasty. My abdication ended China's imperial system. Though I achieved nothing in my life, I remain an inescapable presence in historical records. I also hold another record, ascending the throne 3 times in my life. This is likely unprecedented in Chinese history. Though my 3 ascensions were unremarkable, they make for compelling stories. If you're interested, let me recount the tales of my 3 enthronements. As everyone knows, I was the last emperor of King Xinhai or Puyi. The throne came to me unexpectedly. Empress Dowager Cixi was dying, while her adopted son Emperor Guangxu persistently pursued constitutional reforms that threatened our ancestral legacy. She decided to take Guangxu with her in death, leaving the throne to me. Our families were closely related. My grandmother was her sister, making her my grandaunt. This connection led her to claim children from our family. After her son Emperor Tongzhi died, she adopted my uncle. Now she claimed me as her heir. I was only 3. I vaguely remember that cold night when strangers burst in, dragged me from bed, and carried me away in a sedan chair. At the palace, I met Empress Dowager Cixi first. I distinctly remember her ghastly, almost demonic appearance. Exuding terror, she died 3 days after my arrival, taking my uncle Emperor Guangxu with her. This demonstrates Cixi's precise control over timing. 1 month later, they held my grand enthronement ceremony. Normally, such a young child wouldn't remember, but I clearly recall the bitter cold and howling drafts in the hall. As officials endlessly kowtowed outside, I couldn't sit still on the dragon throne. My father Zeifeng comforted me, whispering, "Don't move. It'll be over soon." They say words carry power in solemn moments. Perhaps because of my father's phrase, "It'll be over," the Qing Empire truly neared its end. A year after my enthronement, rebel gunfire erupted in Wuqiang. The Xinhai Revolution began, with uprisings spreading nationwide, attempting to overthrow the Qing Empire, led by a 5-year-old. I say they were bullying a child, though that's just humor. At 5, the empire was actually governed by my father and the Empress Dowager, but even they couldn't save the rotting regime. The Beiyang army refused their orders, forcing them to recall the ousted Yuan Xinhai to suppress the rebellion. Previously, my father had always wanted to kill Yuan Xinhai, but now he was asking for his help. Only Yuan Xinhai could command the Beiyang new army to suppress these rebels. Unfortunately, this time they prayed at the wrong temple. Yuan Xinhai was more dangerous than the revolutionaries. After returning, instead of suppressing the revolutionaries, he colluded with them and forced us to abdicate. He told the story of the French Revolution in court, scaring Empress Dowager Wang Yu into agreeing to abdicate. After prolonged negotiations, they issued the abdication edict on my behalf. I had been cluelessly emperor for 2 years when they dragged me off the throne before I even formed complete memories. Compared to other failed dynasties in history, the Qing Dynasty of the Xinhai clan lasted over 2 centuries. Fared relatively well. Yuan Xinhai's preferential policies allowed me to remain in the Forbidden City with retainers, and the Republic granted us 4 million taels of silver annually. After abdicating, I still lived in the Forbidden City. My tutors still taught me daily about being a proper emperor. All my servants remained, still addressing me as Your Majesty, so I persisted in believing I still ruled this nation. Until my brother Puyi visited, informing me I was no longer emperor. He took me atop the palace walls and showed me the nation's new emperor. Only then did I awaken from my dream and learn the truth. My spirit plummeted from spring to winter. I had always believed the Forbidden City symbolized supreme power. Now it's a cage for an emperor of a lost dynasty. But soon, a sliver of dawn brought new hope. 3 years after Yuan Xinhai's failed imperial restoration, my loyalist Zhang Sun returned to Beijing with 5,000 Qi-wearing Qing warriors. They drove out President Li Yunhong and restored me to the throne. I was 11 then. Having loyalists like Zhang Sun comforted me, making me believe in reviving the king. I would become a restoration emperor like Lu Zhu or Shao Kang, leaving glorious records in history. Tragically, I only sat on the throne for 7 days before being overthrown amidst nationwide condemnation. My loyal Zhang Xun and his 2 warriors vanished after being defeated. I returned to my miniature kingdom, living in perpetual anxiety. feared they might expel me from the Forbidden City and revoke the 4 million silver taels because of Zhang Xun's restoration attempt. But the Republic didn't punish me. Thus, I peacefully continued as Little Emperor, marrying at 16. Living this way forever wouldn't have been bad. Until 1924, when Fan Yuqiang, called the Lu Bu of the Republic, suddenly stormed the Forbidden City. He gave me 3 hours to leave or face artillery bombardment. Having lived here 16 years, I couldn't bear to depart. But fearing cannons and soldiers' guns, I left with my 2 wives and meager belongings. Human emotions are truly complex. When I lived inside before, I felt trapped and always yearned to break free. But now that I'm gone, I feel so reluctant. In disarray, I walked past those gun-wielding soldiers, my heart filled with terror and humiliation. From that moment, I harbored an intense desire to restore my great Qing Empire. Therefore, after the September Qing TH incident, when the Japanese approached me in Tianjin to become Emperor of Manchukuo, I quickly agreed. I intended to use Japanese power to reclaim my empire and cleanse my humiliation. On March 1st, 1932, amidst wasteland on Changchun's outskirts, I ascended the throne on a crude temporary platform, becoming emperor for the 3rd time, proclaiming the establishment of Manchukuo. I thought this would be a new beginning, but I was wrong. Far from using the Japanese, I became their tool. They turned northeast China into their invasion base, reducing me to their puppet. Though nominally Manchukuo's emperor, I had little freedom, not even permission to sweep my ancestors' graves. I think my days in the Forbidden City were better. Yet even such days soon vanished. In 1945, when the Soviets suddenly declared war on Japan and America dropped atomic bombs, the Japanese emperor surrendered unconditionally, losing my final support moments before fleeing to Japan. I was captured by Soviet Red Army and imprisoned as a war criminal, beginning another chapter of life. Looking back at my 3 ascensions, it all seems like a dream. The first was muddle-headed, the second ephemeral, the third puppet-like being emperor wasn't as glorious as imagined. If life offered reincarnation choices, I'd choose ordinary existence, living simply till life's end.